As a mask clips, the real face of Canada now stands totally exposed. The top government sources have revealed 2 times now how under Trudeau there is a rampant terror and trafficking ring run by the Khalistanis. The first dossier that Times Now will get for you shows how Pakistan-backed Khalistani elements, and this is due to the lack of support in the Indian diaspora, which is now being targeted. What it does is targeting of gullible youth in Canada in the guise of jobs that are being given out and shelter that is being given out. They're being exploited for carrying out their Khalistani activities. Let's detail how it's all being planned. And it's an elaborate plan that has been put in place. Those who are looking for jobs are on target. Let's explain them to you. The human trafficking that is being conducted by the pro-Khalistan supporters. Now, the demand and supply matrix, these are the details that have been mentioned of the demand and supply matrix, which means there are several youths here. They are gullible, they are looking for jobs, they are recruited to Canada, but only because they are going to be used for the Khalistani agenda. So these are the details that have come in of the shortage of the foot soldiers, because these are people who want to push the Khalistani agenda in Canada. There is clearly a lack of support, as we've been saying time and again. The Sikh community in Canada is not in support of the Khalistani youth, which is why people from the country are looked at in India who are looking for jobs. They are taken to Canada for menial jobs, and there these people are used for their Khalistani agenda. So they are sponsored. These are gullible youth from the country. They are taken to Canada for menial jobs like plumbers, drivers. Remember, Justin Trudeau had also spoken about Nijjar, and he said he was a Canadian citizen. There were articles also that were about him saying he was just a plumber. So these are people who are taken for these menial jobs. What is being told is that they are being taken for menial jobs, but they're clearly used for a bigger purpose of pushing this Khalistani agenda, and the terror background is completely wiped out. So some of these employees have been also brought in for religious work. So they come as people who are working in these Gurdwaras for the religious work in Canada as well, and these visas are also completely funded. There are several questions that are raised, and these are people who would be struggling in Punjab. How is it that they get access to these visas in Canada? And this is how it is. These are students who are in Punjab who are now being identified and then taken to Canada. And these details have been spoken of in detail, the intel also being given. No action taken whatsoever. These Indian students have been identified who are gullible and then pushing them for the Khalistani agenda.
Young lads from Punjab who wants to go to Canada or America, specifically Canada, they are being used because since they can't get regular visas, so they are being given asylum in Canada, and then the letters are being issued by their co-conspirators here and also issued from Canada that such people need asylum, and then same sort of people are being used for their extremist objective or for their Khalistani objectives.
Certain perpetrators of the peace in Canada, though they are a handful of the people, they are trying to misuse the sentiments of people in Canada. And Canadian government is also playing in the hands of such sort of perpetrators and ISI. The situation is very dangerous in Canada. I'll request all the people of Canada not to play in the hands of their government or ISI, because if the things continue, then the destiny of Canadians won't be different from those in Pakistan. Hope better sense prevail and the people of Canada really stand against all these people, against this government who is sponsoring terrorism, because Canada is a peaceful country and nobody would like to be called as Pakistani in Canada.
So there is a very large Indian diaspora around the world, and including in Canada. But when you have a situation where the country is officially tolerating terrorists, officially giving them shelter, officially shielding them from Interpol, then you have to be very careful, because the Modi government's first priority is the safety of India and the safety of Indians and the diaspora. So we only have these kind of restrictions on countries like Pakistan, which have a long track record of cross-border terrorism against India. Now, Canada is providing the same kind of shelter. In fact, some of these terrorists who are getting training from ISI in Pakistan are going via Canada. So travel restrictions are fully justified when the safety and security against terrorist attacks in India are the issue. So there are many other places that, for example, there are Indian students in large numbers in Canada. But there are also Indian students in other countries which don't support terrorists. These Indian students can go to other countries. They can, in India itself, there are many new facilities coming up. And the diaspora itself, I think, in Canada is very clear that they are not with Khalistani terrorists and separatists.
Senior news editor Bhavtosh Singh joins us on the broadcast to break down this entire nexus that has been exposed. So Bhavtosh, there are hordes of people from Punjab who go to Canada, and these are on menial jobs. There are several times questions raised on how they get access to these visas, and now it's all becoming clear. These are Khalistani elements in Canada who are targeting the Gullible youth in Punjab, looking for jobs, taking them to Canada and pushing their agenda.
Yes, Pratibha. In fact, what central intelligence agencies have found is that over 30 plus Gurdwaras in Surrey, Brampton are completely under control of people who are either close to Nijjar or, in fact, they associate themselves with Nijjar and individuals who are close to the gangsters terror network, which are under investigation of NIA and other agencies. Having said that, the investigation further revealed that people like Maninder Singh Baul, Parminder and Bhagat Singh, these individuals in fact are the people who control virtually how the human trafficking can happen. Now, they knew, as you rightly said, that there are people who in fact want to go to Canada because of economic reasons here in the country. They are willing to work for menial jobs, and in fact these individuals in Canada sponsored the visa and then provided jobs to them, menial jobs to them in Canada. Once they started working in Canada, they were completely indebted to them, and then whenever the protest happens, which we always see in which are carried out by Sikh for Justice, they work like a foot soldiers in these protests. They vandalize properties, whether it's the diplomatic mission of India or even sometimes temples. These specific places are attacked in a very calculated and systematic manner. Various charge sheets and documents that we have accessed, Nijjar was one of the individuals along with Kanda, Avtar Singh Kanda. They were the ones who in fact in a very calculated and planned manner attacked Indian diplomatic missions, not only in Canada but also in US and UK. And that's what our agencies are probing, and that's what they have found. At least 10 people have been identified in the Consulate General that was attacked in San Francisco, and 15 have been identified in the attack that took place in London.
Okay, all right. So this is also a very clear indication that there's not enough support from the Indian community in Canada for the Khalistani movement, and which is why the Khalistanis are targeting people here who are looking to move out of the country. But let's talk about the second big exclusive. You'll watch it only on Times Now, and Times Now will expose how Khalistani elements are given a free run in Canada. Top government sources have revealed that Canadian agencies did not probe Nijjar despite mounting proof against his involvement in drug trafficking and extortion. Now, let's tell you what the dossier really reveals, and this is going to be extremely important because this is the intel that has been shared with the Canadian government, and despite that, no action being taken, with the Canadian Prime Minister even going on to call Nijjar nothing more than just a Canadian citizen. Now, the Khalistanis were operating freely from Canada for nearly 50 years. So this is not a recent problem. It has been going on for over 5 decades. Canada's Khalistani extremists have been linked to over half of the terror cases in Punjab. So they are being financed in Canada. They're carrying out their activities in Punjab. And Nijjar did targeted killings of Sikh Hindus, Christians in Punjab. There are cases that are filed against him. These details also being given to the Canadian authorities. And the Canadian agencies did not probe it despite the intel being given from India. So there are details against the others as well, including Landa, Brar. These are names which have been given by the NIA, by the Indian agencies to Canada. And Punjab has suffered heavily because of the extortion racket from Canada. We've given out details of how the terror is being unleashed in Punjab, all of it being financed completely from Canada. And Canadian gangsters have also brought in drug from Pakistan via drones and sell them in Punjab. So a big reason why Punjab is facing the drug problem is also because of the money that's coming in from Canada. and in turn the drugs that are sold in Punjab, the money for that is being used for financing the Khalistani cause. So drug trafficking money also goes back to the Khalistani extremists in Canada. The drugs that are brought into the country, the money that's made from it goes back to Canada, where yet again this entire agenda is being pushed. So this is a targeted attempt at only those who are gullible. There are some moderate as well as pro-India people very clearly, but they are easily edged out by muscle and money power in Canada. So as we mentioned, the Indian community as a whole is not pro-Khalistan, which is why those who are pro-India, those who have spoken out against the Khalistani cause have been edged out. And openly intimidating tactics have also been taken up. They've also openly intimidated several Hindus in Canada, remember, and they've also defaced several temples. Of this as well, India had raised it up with Canada, and yet again no action being taken. There were open threats also given to the security of the Indian missions and the diplomats, open threats that had been given, and despite that no action being taken by Canada. So very clearly all along Canada had the intel but did not really have the intent to act on these Khalistani extremists.
Justin Trudeau has been exposed internationally for being a sympathizer of terrorism, and Canada has become a hub and a nursery of terrorism and criminal activities. And Justin Trudeau has been making baseless allegations in the Parliament of Canada. Canada is becoming another Pakistan of nurturing terrorism. But somewhere we find that Government of India has also been failed to exert pressure on international community to expose Canada and tackle this issue diplomatically.
And India, of course, is worried about Canada turning into a hub of Khalistan terror. Listen in. In fact, before we play that out, let's get you the details as we've just played out on the modus operandi of the Khalistani backers back in Canada. Then we also showed you how this agenda has been pushed by and financed from Canada to push terror and drugs into Punjab. But let's also reveal what the NIA charge sheet has categorically called Nijjar a global terrorist. And for the first time, this charge sheet was filed 2 months before Nijjar's murder against his associates Lakbir, Arshdeep as well as Rinda. And at that time, due to lack of cooperation, no prizes for guessing from the Canadian government, Nijjar allegedly was presumed dead. Remember, Justin Trudeau has tried to shield Nijjar as nothing more than just a Canadian citizen. Times now has accessed the charge sheet, which exposes how he was trying to subvert the unity, integrity and sovereignty of India. So let's tell you the details of what the NIA charge sheet now says. This is extremely important because this is by the premier agency in the country. This is the NIA charge sheet that gives out the details of Nijjar as well as the others who are close associates of him. And it clearly says Nijjar is a Canada-based self-styled chief of the Khalistan Tiger force which was trying to push in terror in Canada. And it also mentions that Nijjar is a designated terrorist and conspirator in several killings in Punjab and also extortion cases that were filed against him. So the NIA has given out details of the cases against him. Also mentioning that not just is he a designated global terrorist, he and the KTF, which is the Khalistan Tiger Force, conspired with the other Canada-based terrorists. So he was trying to widen his network, getting in touch with the other terrorists, other gangsters within Canada in trying to bring in trouble and hit the sovereignty of India. And these are the people who have been named as well, declared listed terrorists, and this is under the very, very stringent UAPA Act. So the NIA had mentioned the role of these terrorists and the gangsters and how they were trying to instill terror into Punjab. And he had committed terrorist activities in Punjab. For the Canadian Prime Minister to say Nijjar is nothing more than a Canadian citizen, look at the details against him. The NIA has called him a terrorist, has said that he was involved in several terror cases. In fact, in 2021, Nijjar had also given directions to kill a Dera Sacha Sauda follower. These details also being given out in the NIA charge sheet, clearly revealing the role of this man who was whitewashed as just a citizen of Canada by Justin Trudeau. In fact, Nijjar and Arshdeep, his associate, had conspired to kidnap and kill people of other faiths. So they were targeting people of the other faiths, had conspired to kill them. And the conspiracy was to threaten the unity, integrity and sovereignty of India. Remember, the target of Khalistanis is to sow a divide between Hindus and Sikhs. They've attempted it time and again, which continues in Canada. They continue to do that in Punjab as well. And these terror funds from India were transferred via Hawala to Canada. Remember, we spoke to you about how these details are going on and how Pakistan has been trying to push its agenda. But as the world waits for proof for Trudeau's baseless allegations against India, the world also continued to cold shoulder the Canadian Prime Minister. In fact, Justin Trudeau has been isolated by the world over his allegations that India may have been involved in Nijjar's murder. The latest to slam Trudeau over his accusations against India is Sri Lanka. A day after Bangladesh snubbed Canada and backed India, saying New India is not immature to do such things. In the latest, the Sri Lankan minister has also shred Trudeau, questioning him for why Canada is giving a free run to Khalistani terror.
Yeah, we have always suffered, and some of the terrorists have found safe haven in Canada. Canadian Prime Minister has this way of just coming out with some outrageous allegations without any supporting proof. The same thing they did for Sri Lanka, a terrible lie about saying that Sri Lanka had a genocide. Everybody knows there was no genocide in our country. And I saw yesterday he had gone and given a rousing welcome to somebody who have associated with the Nazis in the past on the Second World War. So this is questionable, and we have dealt it in the past. We have categorically rejected those outrageous allegations. So I'm not surprised that sometime Trudeau, Prime Minister Trudeau, comes out with outrageous, unsubstantiated allegations.
We believe, we are very proud of India because they don't do immature things. We have a very solid relationship with India, and these are based on values and principles. So this is a sad episode. I hope this should end up amicably.
Remember, it all started earlier this month when Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau first made allegations, saying there were credible allegations of links to New Delhi. India angrily refuted the allegations as absurd. Since then, Trudeau has found himself largely on his own in the diplomatic spat between the two countries. It has also damaged his reputation as a global leader. His allegations against India have been seen by many as hypocritical, given Canada's own record on human rights, including its treatment of indigenous people. In fact, his allies in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance have also provided only lukewarm support, and the United States has avoided openly challenging India to maintain its ties with New Delhi. So now the onus remains with the Canadian Prime Minister to provide proof that he has been speaking of. Let's